Hey there, beautiful souls. Welcome to this message. As usual, I am absolutely honored and grateful to have each and every one of you guys tuning in. So as you do tune in, I would absolutely love to hear from you. I would love to know where in the world you are tuning in from. And I, as usual, want you to be part of this conversation. So please do share this with anybody that you feel could benefit from today's message if you do find it of value at any stage of listening in as well. So today I want to really touch base on something that I feel is a really key component that's missing from our perspective, from our awareness right now, and I feel like it could make a huge difference. So it's going to be a little bit of a reminder message. Hey, Wendy, good to see you, beautiful. And I am doing this from my Limitless Potential page today. So kind of random. So I'm interested to see who's going to be able to see this one and join in. But today, you know, with everything going on in the world, as we know, it is crazy. There's lots of different conflicting perspectives going on between us and loved ones and strangers. And it's now more than ever in my lifetime feeling incredibly divided. So I'm assuming you might be able to feel some of that yourself. But I'd love to hear how you're finding the current global climate wherever you are in your particular portion of the globe. Myself here in Melbourne, Australia, I know a lot of you have been reaching out to me, really concerned about me from outside countries looking at Australia, which has been really interesting and fascinating for me to hear and kind of just get an outside perspective of what's going on in my own country as well. And, you know, we can take it with a grain of salt because basically everything that we're listening to and hearing is through all these different media platforms and, you know, the mainstream news and all sorts of things. And we all know what can kind of be elements of truth and what can be kind of elements of left to question. So there's all that kind of going on. But I've actually been pretty sick for the last nearly 14 days now. But particularly over this last week or so, I got really pretty ill. And I'm just kind of on my way out of it again, but it's felt really weird and kind of bit of a wave, you know, kind of ins and outs with this illness. And I've had to take a step back and look at not only on a physical level, like what's been going on for me that's created my my illness and the environment, but also looking at where my mindset has been. And I am a big believer in, you know, the mind-body connection and looking at all angles when we assess our wellness, you know, on a mental level, an emotional level, on a physical level, and on a spiritual level. And part of what I've been looking at and what's been calling to me intuitively has been, you know, this constant infiltration of fear, right? And of, you know, looking at the statistics every day and watching the numbers and, you know, and getting caught up in like, you know, is it bad or is it okay? And, you know, all these different options and all these different conflicts that we're finding ourselves in. And what I've personally found is something around this concept of how we're viewing one another and the divide that I feel is personally impacting our health on all of those different levels. So I want to open up this discussion and I can't wait to hear from you guys as I kind of share a little bit about what's been going on in my world. And I want to see if it resonates with you and if it doesn't, and what's going on in your world. And, you know, the purpose of every single one of these conversations is truly to open up our own perspectives and to make sure that we are leading our own lives consciously. And sometimes it means that we just need to have a little bit of a shift or a little bit of a question or a little bit of, you know, looking at our own perspective and analyzing and seeing what resonates in terms of other people's perspectives. And all for the purpose, like I said, for empowering ourselves on the individual level to basically make sure that we are co-creating our own lives and leading them in a direction that we are inspired by on an individual level. So today's message is it's time to reawaken to the goodness of our shared humanness. And a secondary message on this one is basically that the dehumanizing of others for their differences is destructively dividing us. Okay, and so basically where this came from and what I want to dive into with you guys is I've been doing a lot of reflection, a lot of looking at my own personal world, a lot of looking at the vision and where I'm going, a lot of how I'm interacting, a lot of how, the climate of my own community has shifted and changed. And there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of repression, there's a lot of this negativity, there's a lot of, being angry at people that we, and dehumanizing people that are otherwise, should be respected and valued, members of our society. And it's just all fear-based, right? There's so much fear going on. And what it brings me back to is this whole, this is how I'm seeing it, and see if this fits for you guys. But I'm seeing that there's a bunch of us who are feeling really inferior and just going down the pathway of subordinating and repressing and staying small. And there's a bunch of us also who are operating in a very superior realm. And this has kind of been the theme of my last few Facebook Lives that I've been doing with you guys. But it's all solidifying for me in how I'm viewing things as I take a step back and also analyze and see where I'm situated in this dynamic as well. But basically, it's like two ends of a polarity. There's those of us who are feeling inferior, and there are those of us who are feeling superior, all right? Now, basically, both sides got it wrong, because the middle ground coming into balance is equality, right? The understanding and awareness of our equal and inherent value as human beings or living beings or being on this planet in any way, shape or form, right? And basically, as we know, this is how our hierarchical society is established and set up, and it has its good points and its healthy points, and it also has its destructive points. Okay, and wherever there is a divide, there is winners and losers. Basically, there are those in positions of power, and there are those who have to subordinate. Okay, and so there are payoffs on either side of this very unhealthy and destructive spectrum. Basically, right? So those who are in the place of inferiority basically have the payoff of not having to take responsibility to direct their own lives. And those in the position of superiority basically have the payoff of being in the select, the more superior few, and the group, the in-group, right? And all that comes with that. But what's actually happening from my perspective is this is infiltrating every system that we're a part of, from the large global system all the way down to our individual family systems, right? And then even more so than that internally. And what the missing piece is like we are all missing the point. We're not believing in our inherent and equal value to all other living beings and that reside on this planet, right? We are separating ourselves and creating the hierarchy and perpetuating the cycle of inferiority and superiority. And this is what I feel like we get a bit jumbled up between having mastery and having worth, inherent worth. And so this is where I want us to really just be reminded of this, because I've spoken about this many times and I'm sure a bunch of you guys already know this stuff, but it takes reminding, because we as human beings are great at forgetting, right? And falling into our habitual patterns. But we need to separate mastery from our worth, right? Our self-confidence from our self-esteem. And basically how we do that is we recognize that our self-esteem or our sense of worth and value in this world. It doesn't matter what you've done or not done. It's just all purely you're equal and as valuable, lovable at the core of who you are as every other single human being walking the face of the planet. All right. And our self-confidence, on the other hand, is all around our sense of competence and mastery of different skill sets and education and all the rest of it. But we're conflating the two with one another. And that's the source of the problem of where humanity starts to divide itself between the inferior and the superior, which is perpetuating the destruction and the divide in our society and within ourselves. Okay. And like I said, in every system, from the global to the individual family and to the actual individual itself, right? And we lose our sense of the goodness, of our shared goodness at the core of humanity. We lose our sense of the value of every living, breathing human being, right? And we go on this kind of grab to be in the right group, in the right position of the power, to be all-knowing, to be the person who is right versus wrong. And we get really dehumanizing of those of our same, shared humanness who offer some differences, difference of perspective, difference of belief, difference of being, difference of looking, difference of showing up, different sexes, different inclinations, like all of it, right? Rather than being in this sense of awe about the whole beautiful, magnificent, overwhelming wonderment of all the different differences that we each bring to the table, right? The multifacetedness of humanity, right? And how it gets to expand each of us when we awaken to its beauty, right? And to the core of it. And we allow for those differences. And we go to sleep to that when we are in fear and we are trying to be part of the more powerful side of the equation, or we go to sleep to our capacity and ability to direct and create our own lives, and basically we put ourselves in the inferior group in that respect, or we place ourselves in the superior place. But both are driven by fear, and both are missing the point of the shared goodness of our shared humanness. All right. And so I think what helps me in my own life is, and basically I've been on a funny journey with this, right? Because I went from a very naive perspective of our shared goodness of humanity, right? At the very core. And it got me into situations that, I don't argue, weren't healthy, right? But it's not about throwing out that and just going, oh, humans are bad, humans are dark, humans are manipulative, and I can look at my experiences with these certain humans and I can throw the rest of humanity out who don't hold my exact perspective on the world, right? But I see people do that all the time, and I look at their relationships with others, I look at their relationships with themselves, I look at their experience of life, and I don't want that experience. It doesn't seem fulfilling to me, right? I'm very close to certain people who go down that path, and that isn't how I want to, use my heartbeats and my breaths in this lifetime, right? I also don't want to, and I feel like it's impossible to kind of, when you start waking up to things, when you've been naive, you can't really go back as much as you might want to, right? And you have to go through this disillusionment as you awaken to the other side of, even though there is a core goodness, I truly believe in every single human being, even if it's way down deep under stacks and stacks and stacks of darkness, I truly believe in the inherent goodness within humanity, right? But I don't have to be naive about it. I don't have to see everybody as operating in this really good way, because there is a difference between having the core of goodness and how you choose to operate in your external world based on your own circumstances and your own choices. And a lot of the time, your own traumas. And that's how I see it. I see that there is inherent goodness in every single one of us, every single human being. Even the ones that you think have not an ounce of goodness, I truly believe that there is at the very, very core. But whether or not people are able to, or not able to, but they choose to heal from their own traumatic experiences, right? Their involvement and experiences with the darkness of humanity that resides in all of us as well, right? Whether they choose to heal from that and awaken to their own core goodness and awaken to that shared goodness at the core of every other human, that's really at the point of how they show up in the world, and whether or not they play the game of inferiority and superiority, or they come to this balance of equality, right? Inherent equality and value of every single human being, right? Where there is no hierarchy at that point. And they can also not fall into the trap of being naive and just believing that everybody is good and always has your best intentions at heart, but simultaneously don't fall into the trap of thinking everybody is bad and never has your best interests at heart. Okay, both are very unhealthy and both are driven by fear. And my point for this conversation is to hopefully get you to just go, hang on a minute. With everything that is infiltrating our systems, our, the voices that we're hearing, and the news that we're receiving, and the truth about what's going on, and, the things that we may be questioning, all of it, no matter what it is, no matter what the dialogue, could I have been falling into the trap of fear? When I fall into fear, I start dividing and I start dehumanizing, and I start either placing myself in this real place of inferiority where I just can't trust myself and my own decisions and choices in my life, and I want to outsource that responsibility to whoever I feel has got the most power. Or does it put me in a place of superiority where I am dehumanizing others around me because of their differences of opinions, and I'm seeing the badness, I'm seeing, the darkness, and I'm actually adding to and perpetuating this cycle of division, all right? And I really do believe that can take us away from the real core of realizing our shared goodness and our inherent goodness and equality at the core level, and seeing that in everybody else in the world. And if we don't see that, we're just operating in the same divide, right? So we'll have a very unstable sense of self-esteem, right? We will at times consider ourselves superior, and then we'll consider ourselves inferior. And it's kind of this cycle of up and down and all around, right? That creates a lot of pain and suffering and uncertainty and division and dehumanizing. And it perpetuates that cycle of fear and takes us further and further away from love and the beauty in life and the beauty within each and every one of us, even if we're in a pandemic, no matter what's going on in the world. And if you look at the most devastating points in our history, you're going to see the darkness of humanity come to the forefront. But you're also, if you really wake up and you really take a more broad perspective of what's going on, you're also going to see people stepping up. You're also going to see people, trust in the goodness of humanity, trust in our ability to direct the course of our own lives, trust in, really making a meaningful difference and evolving collectively rather than this power struggle and division. All right. And so it's always available to us. It's just what we choose to find and seek. And oftentimes, because our human nature is to do everything that we can to avoid pain, we oftentimes miss the beauty and the pleasure that is available to us, and that can oftentimes take more energy to try and find, but we have to recognize that about how we operate, and we have to mitigate against that, right? I'm always saying, you know, the train on the tracks, or the car on the dirt road, right? And we've been playing this game of fear, and we know this all too well. But if we're not feeling good, right? If it's not really working out for us, if we're not really appreciating and enjoying our daily lives and realizing the purpose and having enthusiasm and inspiration and evolution and personal growth and connection at the deepest levels, then we've got to ask ourselves, are these dirt tracks like really working out for us? Maybe what do we have to lose if we try diverting off the same old negative but easy to operate, just let everything unfold and never do any, kind of work on navigating our own belief systems and our own perspectives and questioning our thoughts and directing our focus, right? What have I got to lose if I've been on these tracks? It's not working out for me. I'm not enjoying life. I really don't care about how it ends up. If we're in that realm, what have we got to lose by diverting a bit? And that diversion does take a little bit of effort, right? But the payoff of diverting into finding the good, right? That person who is pissing you off the most in your life right now, right? Find the person who is the most annoying, the most triggering, the one who gets you most riled up, and I want you to take that person and I want you to find their goodness. All right. And this is going to be so challenging. And let me tell you this is the quickest way to see if you are trapped in the game of superiority. All right. Because you don't want to. You're so resistant that you just won't even do it. Right. You're quick to identify the person, right? But you won't do the work to find their inherent goodness, to find similarities between yourself and that person, all right? And that is a reflection of your need for superiority driven by fear, right? And so don't judge yourself with it. Like, just be radically honest, because when you wake up, when you have awareness of your own patterns, and, I can find myself in this pattern, and go, oh, all right, I really don't want to let go of that because I have been, outsourcing my pain onto this other person, and makes me feel better. It allows me to avoid having to do the work myself if I can just pin it on this person, right? But when we do the work and wake up to that and go, oh, the freedom is in waking up to our own patterns that are destructive and creating our own suffering. And when we wake up to that and we do the work to find, okay, what similarities do I have with this person? How, if I shared my same life, right? If I went through the same experiences that this person has been, right? If I could see this other human being as myself, just living a different life, right? How could I see that if I had all of their experiences, I'd probably have the same perspective that they did. I'd probably be making the same choices that they are, right? And when we can get to that point, we are leaps and bounds closer to recognizing and owning our own inherent value and the equality of that value to every other human being walking the face of the planet. And we find ourselves in their light, in their darkness, right? We find the light within ourselves in them. And we find the darkness that we've been triggered by in ourselves. And now we're at choice point. How do we choose to direct the course of our own lives? How do we use this to empower ourselves? And I'm telling you right now, the life lived with the trust and the knowingness of our inherent and equal value and lovability is a hell of a lot more fulfilling than the one in which we believe the world is against us and we have to dehumanize and divide and be part of our little clique and belonging, the more powerful, more knowing way of being, right? At the expense of other human beings, right? That's a terrible pathway. I know you know people who go down that path, really look at their lives. They are not happy. They are not fulfilled. They live their lives by tearing others down so that they can get a momentary high of feeling superior. But they're really dead inside because they can't ever access the truth and the depth of the capacity of their heart and the sense of awe that can be awoken. You know, when you really wake up and you go, oh my gosh, like the depths of our goodness, the shared goodness that is available to us, the love, you know, like the beauty that's all around us. You know, that is the pathway to live your life, to dedicate your heartbeats to, all right? And so there's a vast difference between those two strategies, you know, for living life. And, you know, don't fall into the trap of believing that you're inferior to anybody, and definitely don't believe that you're superior to anybody. Remember, there is a vast difference between your self-esteem, your sense of worth, the actual knowingness of your inherent value and equality, versus mastery, self-confidence, your competence in your skill sets that you are learning about, that you're directing yourself with. Don't conflate the two as being the same, okay? Because they're definitely separate, okay? And I really do believe that this conversation is at the core of the destruction that is in our humanity and has always been here. And it's up to us on the individual level to wake up and reawaken to the goodness of our shared humanness. Okay, so I really hope that this has been of value to you guys. Now is the time I want to check in with you. I want to jump into the comments and see who's been able to join me. Please drop me a comment. Let me know where in the world you're tuning in from. And if you have any words of wisdom that you want to share on this topic, any questions or comments that you have, I absolutely love co-creating this space with you. And if you feel like you've got people in your life who could do with hearing and just kind of reawakening to the goodness that's available in humanity, then please do share it with them publicly or privately, whatever you want to do. All right, let me check in. So I've got Wendy, hello to you, and Bill's in the house, much love to you, my friend. And Jerry's here. Thanks, Vanessa. Wow, been a long time. A conscious mindset will match our authenticity. I love it, my friend, and good to see you as usual. And yeah, we've got to wake up, and you know, that's the thing. We can only see others in the full spectrum and capacity that they are operating in when we are opening and awakening and conscious of those aspects within ourselves. That's why, you know, it is the least selfish thing to do is to dedicate yourself to introspection and self-awareness and understanding who you are on all levels, right? Not just the good, but also the shadows, right? And when you do that, it awakens you to be able to see, like Jerry's saying, right, through your awakenness to your own authenticity, being able to see others and awaken to the full spectrum of who they are and see exactly why they may be operating in the way that they are, you know, recognizing that they are us, you know, living a different life. And how we might understand why they operate in the way that they do if they had that life, right? They've had that experience. And how if we had that experience, we may very well be operating identically to them. Okay, so recognize where you're inferior. And I'll give you a little key homework piece here that's so valuable that I actually, DeMartini talks about this. It's called Owning the Traits of the Greats, which I love. And basically it's looking at the people in your life, or maybe you haven't met these people, but you feel inferior to them, right? And maybe you idolize them, right? They're so amazing. And I want you to note down 3. Right? Pick 3 people in your life that you feel inferior to. Now, they may be in your personal life, or they may be in the public eye. If you can, choose people in your personal life because it'll have a more dramatic effect on you personally. But pick these 3 people that you feel inferior to, right? And I want you to identify what are the traits within them that you deem powerful, all right? And then I want you to find, after you do that, you find those traits within yourself. Where is it that you have been confident, or whatever the element that they have is, right? And when you can look throughout your existence and you can actually find the same trait to the same degree in your own life, and I guarantee you will if you do the work, what you do is you put yourself into equilibrium. You put yourself in equality. You recognize your inherent value that is not lesser than those people that you've placed in those, traits of the greats kind of positions, right? Where you put them on the pedestal and yourself in a pit. All right. And also I would encourage you, definitely, where you feel superior to others, pick those people that you are looking down upon. Right? And ideally in your own life, but it might be other people in the public eye or whatever. And I want you to identify what are those traits that you are feeling superior to. And then I challenge you, right? For those of you who are committed to breaking free to your own freedom, to your growth, to actualizing your true potential, to truth, you will find those traits you've been looking down your nose at within yourself, and this again will bring you into equilibrium. Equilibrium is where you will be free and you will be fulfilled. All right, you don't want to avoid this work. So hope that that's a value, and I'd love to hear from any of you guys who are willing to take on board that action step. Awesome, and Sam's here as well, and Philippe, hola, mi guapa coach. I love it. Good to have you, my friend. And Nor's here, and Daryl from Calgary, Alberta. Great to see you, my friend. And Todd's here as well. And Wendy, yes. I've grown up with PTSD. I'm now 49 years old, have taken on being my mum's carer. I thought she was aware that I have a mental illness. She's being so triggering. I had my handbag stolen last week. She's now saying I always had bad luck. Just why? Oh my gosh. All right. I feel you on this, Wendy, and my heart is with you. It is very challenging what you've faced with PTSD. But it can be overcome, right? And I can see that you are somebody who grows yourself, and you are on this journey. And I honor your truth telling with who's triggering you. And oftentimes it's the people that are closest to us that are the most triggering, right? And so what I would say to that is to oftentimes, right, and particularly when it's a parental relationship. I've had a big journey with this, particularly over this last lockdown, actually, because this is the first lockdown I've had with other people, and I've actually been locked down with my parents, right? And for the last, 2 months or something. And it's been really such a healing process, because what we need to do as adults, right, is recognize that we can still be in this child-parent dynamic. And oftentimes our parent doesn't want to allow us to, they don't want to view us as an adult. They still put us in this child position, right? And we may be putting ourselves in that child position, and the parent putting them in the parent position still, even though we're grown adults, right? And what often is the cause of that is that we're still seeking that which was missing from our childhood. We're still holding on and longing for that parent to give us what they never gave us. You know, that love, the validation, you know, the kindness, the understanding, the seeing of us, right? Whatever it was that was missing. And so I would challenge you in this circumstance, because I feel like you're in a beautiful opportunity right now, even though it's a dark one, and your mum might be a bit of a dark guru for you right now, as I like to call them, right? When somebody's in that position of, you know, like it doesn't feel good and you don't really want to go through it, but they're actually giving you an opportunity to grow. They're in the dark guru position. But I would actually challenge you to take some time for yourself and journal, right? Have a conversation with yourself, really hear yourself, and identify what it is that you're still attached to receiving from your mum, right? And it's going to be different for all of us, but, you know, basically it's, you know, her maybe giving you, being compassionate, being understanding, saying, I'm so sorry that that happened to you, rather than the way that she's doing it, which is like, oh, you've always had bad luck, right? And not seeing us and not being compassionate. Identify whatever it is, the unmet need that you're attached to receiving that is annoying you and triggering you, right? And now it is that dark guru giving you the opportunity to give this to yourself, right? And that is the pathway to freeing yourself and converting the relationship of child-parent, right? And those same dynamics to ideally an adult relationship, but that always in relationship, it takes two to tango, right? They have to be willing to do that. And sometimes we need to, it's healthier to separate. But I always am a believer in taking the steps within ourselves to meet our own unmet needs as adults, right? And to detach from expectations of having that person be any different to who they are. And then recognizing ourselves and how what we might be experiencing if we were to operate like that. Trust in their intention is not necessarily to hurt you. They're going through their own fears, their own lack of awareness, their own way of dealing with the world, their own belief systems and all of that, and know where they end and you begin, all right? And so that might be very helpful for you to recognize, and I am always available. So if you ever want some deeper support on a personal level, you can always reach out to me and I will do my best to support you in any way that I can. All right, and I so appreciate you sharing your experience here, Wendy. Hope that that was of value. Awesome. We've got Patty in the house and Heaven is here as well. What a good name. I love it. And Sam, I can forgive and forget. I just can't see there is any goodness in them, but I get what you're saying. I feel you on that, Sam. And it is a journey. All right. And so forgive and forget. That can be challenging for us as well, but I'm glad you're on the journey and you can forgive. I choose don't forget too quickly, right? Because that's what can perpetuate the cycles. But I really do believe that that it's a lot of work to get to that place where you can see and trust in the inherent goodness at the core. The way I look at it is recognizing, and I've heard people who've had children have this experience, which I find really fascinating. I haven't had children, but I can still see this experience and take it on board, right? And basically what that is seeing that this adult once used to be a baby, right? Like a little baby before the world happened to it, right? And before it developed the belief systems and all of these sorts of things. So if you can just get to that place, can you ask yourself the question, like, are babies born bad? Do you really think that that's true? And can you know that it's true? And the truth is, we can't know that anything's true. So I'm a big believer in choosing to, believe in the possibility of the things that make me feel more empowered in the world. All right. Even though I don't know, and I won't know for sure, I'm open to the possibility that that's true. Right. And when I differentiate between that, right, if I can recognize that, that if we're all good at the core when we're born as these little, innocent babies coming into the world, and then depending on our circumstances and the families that we're born into, the experiences that we have, all the rest of it, the support or lack of which we have in our lives, we can understand that what can happen is this covering up of that inherent goodness at our core, all right? But the trust in the depths of it and recognizing how life and the experiences that we've had can drum up a protective mechanism and a whole layer of them that can turn hugely destructive. And it doesn't mean that we have to subject ourselves to the environments in which people are unhealthy. In fact, I am a big believer in removing yourself from people who haven't taken responsibility for navigating their own healing and accessing their goodness and all of that. You know, you don't need to subject yourself to that. And I don't care if they're blood related or not, right? That means nothing. You know, having strong, healthy boundaries and respect for yourself and honoring of yourself, and all of that is really important. But what helps you be free is to recognize at the very, very, very deep core, we all share that same value, that same equality, that same goodness, right? But it doesn't, you know, there's a difference between that core self and how we're operating in the world. Okay, so it's a great distinction to get to, because then we get to recognize how we are in control of how we choose to live our lives from that point as adults, right? So hope that's a value, and I really appreciate you being here, Sam, and hope this is a valuable message for you. Awesome. And Bill, everyone is doing the best they can with the level of awareness they have. Absolutely. So true. Really great to be aware of, and to also put healthy boundaries there as well. If people don't have the awareness and the tools, doesn't mean that you can look down upon them and feel you're superior, but it does mean that you might need to put some healthy boundaries there, out of respect for yourself, you know, and just recognize that's a valuable human being, but they're on a different path. And that's either going to be a healthy one to be entwined with or an unhealthy one. All right. So love that. Thanks for bringing that up, Bill. And shine on, be healthy. I love it. Yeah. I'm on the mend. I love it. And Jerry, you're so welcome, my friend. Great to have you here as usual. And Gopi is here as well. And Wendy, thank you. Vanessa, you always give me such insight, so appreciate you. And right back at you. Much love and appreciation to you as well, beautiful Wendy. I'm grateful that that was of value to you. And Sam's here, and Daryl, thank you for your kind words, my friend. You are so appreciated as usual. And Data, it can also take very strong internal boundaries to love someone when they're not at their best. Sometimes we can, sometimes we don't have as much of a capacity. Awareness is key to be able to either hold space or place healthy boundaries consciously, and I couldn't agree more. It's been funny actually, because I have been quite unwell. The last couple of days have been a bit better, but I got pretty sick for a while there, and I definitely recognized that my own capacity to love people through their, you know, lack of awareness at times, it significantly dropped off, right? So all the more reason to be healthy, and yeah, absolutely. And we have to appreciate that. That's part of the beauty of relationship, right? Is to be able to recognize when somebody is not operating at their most conscious self, right? Because we all operate in that way at times, right? We can't expect ourselves to be all higher consciousness and awoken, right? Every moment of every day, but it's the choice to create the space and recognize that sooner within ourselves, and also give some leniency for other people when you trust in their intention is not to hurt you. You can see that they're in fear, like A Course of Miracles thesis basically is. If you haven't read that book, I recommend checking that work out. But the thesis of that book is basically, there's a lot of different great messages, but it is basically to recognize that everything is either a call for love or an expression of love. Everybody's either operating from a place of fear, right, or a place of love, and you feel it, right? And so we can say awareness is operating from a place of love, and that lack of awareness is operating from fear, and fighting fear with fear just really magnifies fear. All right, so if we can have that capacity, like Data's so wisely contributed to the conversation here today, you know, to be able to recognize when people aren't at their highest capacity, to be in love, and have succumbed to fear, which is part of the human experience, to be lenient with them, to trust in their intentions, to see that they're in fear, and to love them through that and hold that space for them. That's a beautiful, beautiful quality to have, that each of us could do with establishing and building to the highest potential. So I love that. Thank you so much. I want to thank you guys so much for showing up live today. Also, because I kind of randomly did this one, I just wanted to test it out by doing it on the Limitless Potential page, see if I can catch more of you guys. I don't know, I don't think I've ever done a live on this page, but I absolutely appreciate you guys for taking the time, for contributing your words of wisdom, your questions, your experiences. You are so appreciated, and I cannot wait to see you guys soon. So thanks again for tuning in. So much love.